Good morning, dolls, and welcome to Little Gretchen's workshop. So today I have a few small items. They weren't big enough to do individual videos on them, but they're things I need to get off my work table and off my mind. So I thought I would allow you to watch. Now, this is an area rug I actually received in a bundle when I purchased a bulk lot of furniture off of eBay. It was pre-owned furniture and things, and so it wasn't it. It's a kind of a basic rug. It's like printed on felt, but it's still really pretty and it's nice. But I thought it needed a little bit of realism, so I decided to use one of my favorite fabrics, burlap, and add fringe to it. Now, if you dolls haven't seen my broom video, definitely check that out. I do a lot with burlap. It was one of my earliest materials I had available to me when I first started in miniatures. So I've found a lot of uses for it over the years. So I'm going to use a very similar technique to what I used with the brooms. And so I just kind of measured out a piece that I thought would be long enough to create the length of the fringe that I would want. And I need two pieces, one for each side. So after I had the side, had already decided what I wanted for the first side, I trimmed a second piece to use for the second side. So I'm just cutting it. Now, after your two pieces of burlap are equal lengths, you're going to decide how many layers that you want to take off to create your fringe effect. And it's a personal preference. You can do it however you like, but this is how I do it. The burlap is very widely woven or loosely woven, so you just pick it apart with a pointed tool or toothpick. And be very careful and always be conscious of your fingers, dolls. Even if you're using a toothpick, you can prick yourself and get a splinter. So always be careful and conscious of your hands. Your hands and fingers are very precious, so keep them safe. So now that I've removed the amount of layers I want for my fringe, I just take it on over to check it to see if it's giving me the effect that I want. And it is. And I even like that the color of the fringe really picks up the patterns that are in the little carpet. So yeah, that's going to work out great. Now in this instance, I'm actually going to use my Fabric Fix. So Fabric Fix or Fabric Fusion will work for a project like this. I would prefer not to use the liquid stitch, mainly because I believe that liquid stitch is better suited for finer fabrics. In this instance, because the burlap is coarse and the carpet is actually like a felt type fabric, so it's kind of heavy. So I feel like it needs something a little bit denser that it'll be able to saturate through the fibers of the burlap and to make it adhere to the felt. So yeah, I just used my Fabric Fix. I'm getting to the end of that bottle, dolls, so I had to use a coffee stir stick to get it out. Now, anytime your fabric fix gets a little bit thick, you can use a little acetone to thin it out. So that's just a tip I just wanted to share. So I'm just adding it to one side of the burlap. And I'm adding it pretty sparingly. You don't want it to be a lot because it's going to adhere. You want enough that it'll be able to go through like I said, the levels of the fiber in the burlap, but you don't want too much because you don't want your project to be messy. And it's going to glue pretty fast. And you see, you just lay it right along that edge and press it in. Yep, just press it in really nice and neat. And there you go. And if you need a little adjustment, the glue is very forgiving, so it'll allow you time to adjust it to make sure it's correct before it begins to set up. And if you need to trim your fringe or make it neater, it's no problem. It'll definitely do that before everything locks down. So this was just a little project I just wanted to show you, dolls, because it really makes a difference. I say all the time, it's the little things that really enhance or really give life to your project. So you don't want to neglect little things like fringe and little finishing. See that? I think that looks really nice. And this can be used on rugs. You could use it around the base of a chair. You could even use it on around a lamp. It's so many different things you can use this particular finish for. So just kind of keep it in your back pocket when you're looking to enhance or just really be a little creative with some of your accessories. Now I'm just trimming and taking levels off for the next side so it'll look the same. So for the second side dolls, I use the exact same process. So I sped it up a little bit so it wouldn't be redundant, but you just add the glue to the side, press it down, and if you after you smoothed it and adjusted it and make sure it's like you like it, check it out and see if all the fringe are even. And if they're not, you can just go ahead and trim them. But I think it made that little rug or area rug or carpet look really, really nice. And that rug is almost like a room size rug, especially for some of the smaller bedrooms in the rooming house, dollhouse. I think it'll be perfect. So dolls, after I was done, I piddled and fiddled with it a little bit. And there we are, our completed enhanced rug. So I hope you use some of these tips and tricks to upgrade your rugs. I actually had a couple other runners for my hallways, and they needed a little help too. So I did the same thing. I didn't show the process. It was exactly the same. I just cut a shorter piece of burlap. So use what you have and make it work. Speaking of making it work, here was a real challenge for me. So in this case, dolls, I had a little table. Actually, it was only a tabletop. It came in a lot of broken furniture. And I actually took the tabletop and added a newel post to it to create a table. And after adding the newel post, I created some little beveled legs to the bottom, four of them to make the table stabilized. So after doing all that, I decided even though the table was functional, it wasn't very attractive. And so I wanted to do something to it to enhance it a little bit so that I would like it a little bit better than I did plain. So I decided to add a tablecloth to it. And I had a scrap piece of fabric that was left over from when I made the bed spreads from the girls' room. And I took the little piece of fabric and I cut it in a circular shape. It was actually not quite as long as the table, so I'm going to add lace to it before I complete it. But after I shaped it around the table, and I mentioned to you all before, just like when I was working with the curtains, when fabric is cut, especially in miniature sizes, it doesn't drape well. So I'm definitely going to have to use my water and glue solution to shape it. And although I lost the footage where I actually draped it, it's the same technique as what I used for the curtains for the rooming house dollhouse. The 1 part tacky glue and 3 to 4 parts water, depending on how stiff you want your project to be. And you see there's another kind of plain unattractive table, and I used the same treatment and just covered it with a tablecloth. Now it's functional and it's cute. So don't get rid of or, oh, there it is. I did have a little bit of the footage. I'm sorry, dolls. Don't be afraid to dress it up or work on it, and don't discard pieces that may not be your favorites. They can always be useful if you just take a little time to fix them up and enhance them. You never know when you'll need an extra table or an extra chair. So nothing wasted, dolls. So here I'm going to just show you how I made some really quick, simple polymer clay candles. So I just used some scrap pieces of polymer clay to make a cream beige yellow tone clay, rolled it into a thin snake. Then I baked them based on my polymer clay package instructions. Always follow your package's instructions. And then I allowed them to cool. And after I cut it into lengths that I thought would be good size for candles for my dollhouse, I drilled little dents in the tops where I wanted to put my wick. And if you can see, it's almost like a little divot in the top where I placed my drill. And when it comes to my wick, all I use is a piece of beige cotton thread. Now, I actually have no intention of ever lighting these candles, but I want them to look like they've been lit. So I cut really small pieces of my cotton thread and dip them into my Gorilla Wood glue. After dipping them into my Gorilla Wood glue, place them into the little divot on the top of my polymer clay candle. Now this will take a little adjusting, because if you cut the piece of thread too long, it'll want to fall over. It actually has a weight to it. But if you cut it short enough, it'll more or less just stick straight up in the glue, and it'll dry looking just like a piece of candle wick. Now I actually used my tweezers to put it in to make sure it's set properly. I was really happy at the end, and when I completed what I needed, I went on to complete the spares. You can never have too many candles, dolls, and save the extras for another project. So dolls, although this is a very small and very tedious, and it may even seem to be insignificant, but it's the little details and things like this that really bring a miniature scene or a dollhouse to life. Because without the accessories and all the details in a dollhouse, you just have a room with furniture, and you want so much more than that. You want your dollhouse to come to life with accessories and details, the signs of life, to make you think that someone just walked out of the room or that they're on their way back. So just take your time. You can make your candles as big or as thin as you want, as tall or as short as you want. I just want to show you the technique so that you can use it to be inspired and imagine and create what works well for your dollhouse. So now that the wicks are dry, I just took a little black paint and painted the tips of them to give the impression that they had been lit and had been blown out. To me, that makes them look really realistic. When I was a little girl, my mom, anytime she bought candles, she would open them immediately and burn the wicks. She didn't like unburned wicks sitting on the candlesticks. So I guess I'm the same way. So now I have what I needed and candles to spare. I actually used it to replace the ones in my Trash to Treasure candlestick holders. If you haven't seen that video, check out my playlist. Now, dolls, if you enjoyed this video today, let me know in the comments. Also, like, share, and subscribe, and look for me every week on Mondays and Wednesdays after 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It sure has been a pleasure. Looking forward to seeing you, dolls, on the next episode of Little Gretchen's Workshop. Bye-bye now, dolls.